Let's get more on this now from the chair of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus. Mr. Priebus, thank you for joining us this morning. You just heard that interview with Mr. Trump. He certainly seemed to be much more interested in explaining and excusing the violence against protesters than in condemning it. Has he done enough to contain the violence at his rallies?
Well, look, I mean, I think he's trying to make the point that we want to talk about both sides, but clearly both sides need to condemn violence, and violence is never the answer. And I think as far as everyone getting involved in the crowds, I leave it to the professionals. I mean, the sheriff there was in the crowd, and Secret Service is there, and that's their job to do it, and I think that's the best place to leave it. So, look, violence is never the answer. Condoning violence is never the answer. It's not what we're about. And I think everyone agrees with that.
Everyone agrees. But what have you told? I know you speak with the Trump campaign and Mr. Trump himself. What have you told him about this? This is not the first time it's happened. We're seeing this happen again and again and again.
Well, I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, and obviously they agree that violence is not the answer, and that they don't condone it, and that they tell the crowds that they don't condone it. So, look, it's obviously not completely in my control what happens at these rallies and what people say and do, but I would leave it to the professionals, and I would continue to talk about the fact that we need to have a solutions-based campaign and not obviously something that you know, creates an environment that violence is present.
So when you say leave it to the professionals,
I don't think.
When you say leave it to the professionals, does that mean that the campaign manager should stop engaging protesters?
Look, I don't know all the circumstances, George. You know, I'm just sitting here this morning just like you. I haven't talked to them about it. Obviously, my point would be leave those things to the professionals. Don't get involved in crowds in those altercations, and that's why the pros are there.
Let's talk about this possibility of a contested convention. You used to call it an extreme hypothetical. Is that still the case?
Probably not still the case, no. I think it's possible, and we're preparing for that possibility. I think it's my job is to be as open and transparent as I possibly can be. That's why I'm trying to get out there on the convention a lot, out in the media, and talk about what the rules are and what they're not, and take the mystery away from what an open convention looks like, because it really is pretty simple stuff.
Well, let's take some of the mystery away right now. You heard Mr. Trump on this idea that if he got really close to the 1237 but didn't get there, his supporters would be very angry. He said he didn't want them to riot, but they're going to be very angry, and the Republican Party would lose if he were then denied the nomination. It's simple. It's a yes or no question. Is it fair if he goes in without 1237 but with a plurality for the convention to deny him the nomination?
Well, a plurality is a minority, and a minority doesn't choose for the majority. So you have to have a majority of the delegates in order to be the nominee. There's nothing magical about the number. It's 50% plus one. So no one's disenfranchised. In fact, they're enfranchised by receiving bound delegates based on the outcome of the elections. And so that's all it is. And so you have to have a majority in order to be the nominee of our party. It's no different than when I became chairman of the party. I won on the 7th ballot, George. Hardly a landslide, but I was never behind. But no one called me the winner on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th ballot. I had to get to a majority. Most state chairmen out there across the country go through this same process on the floor of conventions. So that's why to us it seems natural that you'd have to have a majority of your party say, yes, that's the person I want to be the nominee. There's nothing wrong with that. Can you guarantee that the nominee will be one of the 3 candidates in the race right now? Well, I mean, I think it would be highly unlikely if it's not. You know, I can tell you that. I think it would be somewhat very unusual. But, you know, I can't 100% guarantee that, but I can't imagine right now sitting here believing it would be anyone but the 3 remaining candidates. And finally, what do you say to that Stop Trump movement talked about in the New York Times this morning, the possibility of recruiting a third-party candidate like Senator Tom Coburn or maybe even Governor Rick Perry of Texas? Will that doom your chances, as Mr. Trump says? Well, sure it would. Of course it would. But I also think it's far too late. I think this is some folks find it to be interesting, and that's great, but it isn't likely, and it's probably too late. And there is no definitive answer right now as to who the nominee is going to be of our party. So I think all of it's far too early, George.
Mr. Priebus, thanks for joining us this morning.